Sunday recap, week 11. Kevin Brunk, Michael Merlo coming to you every Sunday night. Mike, background today, black and yellow, second week in a row. That means the Pittsburgh Steelers picked up another big win today. We will get to it right after we discuss what we just saw from your Bills beating the undefeated Chiefs. I'll let you start wherever you want to go here.
Yeah, I mean, what an impressive win. What a great game. We deserved a great game in that window. It's, one of those hyped up games where, 2-3 weeks out, you're looking forward to it. And listen, we got a great game. I was very impressed with Buffalo, obviously. This is a good Kansas City defense. This is the strength of this Chiefs team, right? And they did a great job today, Buffalo. Allen used his legs as a weapon. We see that in the final score of the game. So all day, the running game really wasn't there with James Cook. I mean, he had a couple of touchdowns, but, 9 for 20, on the ground today. Not a great game from him. So the Chiefs, we know how great that defense is, but when you can unlock a different level of your game, missing a couple of your key receivers, that's big for Buffalo.
And how about Kelsey today? When we go to the other side of the ball, the Bills defense, Kelsey, 2 catches, 8 yards. That's not a recipe for success the way the Chiefs are currently built and constructed, considering injuries. They're not going to totally gash you on the ground right now without Pacheco. He obviously would be in a playoff scenario between these two teams unless he got re-injured. But Kareem Hunt, 14 for 60. Hunt's kind of just been keeping things steady at the position, but there's been a lot to be desired for KC. They were due for a loss. We kind of spoke about it last week. They weren't going to go undefeated because they played too many close games. On the road at Buffalo felt like a playoff game, but now the difference in, they're not going to go undefeated to they lost today to Buffalo is in a now pursuit of the 1 seed. They're chasing the 1 seed, being only a loss behind KC, and that's why I think this win is so much more than just beating the undefeated team in your conference. You needed to close that gap.
And they did, obviously. It's big to get that 1 seed, especially playing. You don't want to go to Kansas City. You don't. And yes, Kansas City went into Buffalo last season and beat them. They also went into Baltimore last year and beat them. But not that they're a different team. They are a different team, but it just kind of feels, it's so important. It's so important to get these games at home. The home field advantage, and not only in the sport, but with these 3 teams here, these top AFC teams, I think we can essentially count Baltimore out of the 1 seed conversation. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but really with these two, it is massive. So, Buffalo, again, the defense, which was questioned coming into this year, I thought they did a good job. You're right. Pacheco's a huge loss for this team, dating back to, a couple of months ago when they lost him. But, again, give Buffalo, which the defense was so scrutinized over the offseason. They lost so many guys. They've done a good job here.
And another topic on the 1 seed, just look at the AFC, right? You don't want to get stuck as a 2 seed, potentially playing Cincinnati or Miami or Baltimore in the first round of the playoffs. You want that bye, get yourself healthy, get your home game in round 2. This is not an easy landscape for a team in the 2 or the 3 seed, especially the 3, to navigate the first round of the postseason. Tonight, huge game against the Chargers and Bengals. When talking playoff implications, we will discuss it at the end of the show, which, of course, we bring you right into that Sunday Night Football game. But any concern here with the Chiefs? They finally get a big, bad opponent on the road. They haven't played a game that felt this significant really since week 1, I think, when they played Baltimore on the first night of the season, which has such little implications in the big picture, those week 1 games. But any concern now? Mahomes, a couple turnovers today. Chiefs struggling to move the ball.
The only thing I have questions with is you're not getting a big receiver back, right? Getting your running back, and that'll help things offensively, but you're not getting a legitimate wide receiver number 1 back. Rice is not coming back. So, yeah, I do have concerns. And we did this last season, and I kind of was like, I'm not going to worry about Kansas City too much. They'll figure it out towards the end. But will Worthy figure it out? Will Worthy know how to work the sideline? Will he learn how to figure that out before the end of the season? How many times in the last few weeks has this guy been naked near the sideline and has a foot out of bounds where it's completely unavoidable? So that's my only concern is the wide receiver room. And of course, Kelsey, is he aging? We saw this last year. He turned it on as we got to the postseason. will he be able to do that in age, whatever, how old he is?
And that's my expectation, is that he will do that, because we saw the same thing with Gronkowski the last 3 or 4 years of his career, that even the year in Tampa. So you have the retirement year, but then the 3 years before that, the year in Tampa.
Can I ask you this question? Because I trust your opinion on this. Do you think it's also more of a scheme thing right now where Kansas City's like, and we're not doing everything we possibly can to get him open because we want to save that for later in the year?
I don't know if it's we want to save that, but it might be, let's try and get Worthy and these guys involved in these games, because we are going to need to get them involved later on in the season. You need to get these guys up to speed. And it's also difficult. You can't just go to Kelsey every week, right? We know that. We know that at this point in his career, he can't be the 10 receptions, 15 targets a week guy that he was for a few seasons. He's at a point where he is age. I think it's a mix, right? Andy Reid isn't really game planning to get him open. He'll do that more towards the postseason, but it's a mix of that and age. And his age definitely shows. He's not the same player, but that doesn't mean he won't be a monster.
And he loves these tight ends. Mahomes loves the tight ends here. Pause. Wow. He loves Gray. He loves Gray, and he loves Watson, especially Gray. The 2 touchdowns today.
Yeah, and they're good tight ends. I'm not going to lie. I mean, these are very good second and third tight ends. I don't know if it's just because Kansas City makes them look good, but they're very athletic tight end 2s and 3s.
It's probably that. But
they can come to one of our teams. I mean, my
God. They're cut.
They don't even make the roster.
Yeah.
All right, anything else on this game before we get into the Steelers here?
McDermott still, I mean, he didn't do anything today. I don't know why I'm picking on him. He still scares the hell out of me.
Going for it, though, on 4th down, that is a good go. That's one he normally does. We didn't even talk about that play. Going for it on 4th is big. That was a great run by Allen, who you expect nothing less from.
MVP.
Is he right now? I wanted to have that conversation, and I almost missed it. Is he right now the MVP?
You see what I'm doing with my hand here? He's soaring up that list. Lamar did not have a good day today. Saquon had the great game Thursday. I think he's firmly in the competition. I would have taken Jared Goff out of it with 5 interceptions, but then he comes back today with 350. So I think he's 1 or 2 with Lamar, right?
Okay, so the favorites coming into today, it was Lamar plus 100, Allen plus 350, Mahomes plus 600, and then you get to Hurts plus 1,400. So let's say just those 3. Now, Mahomes, of course, is only there in the case of the Chiefs going 15-2 or 16-1, 17-0, whatever. That's why Mahomes' odds were so high. He should probably dip after this week. I agree. I think Allen would be the favorite for me. That's where the best money is after this week. He feels like the guy and what works in his favor is the rest of his offense. The writers are going to look at it and say, well, this is a one-man show, unlike Baltimore.
Right. Baltimore has, the best running back or second best running back in football. They have a couple of deep threats at receiver. Yeah, 100%. The players, the level of players that Allen has lost and not having the offensive coach, I think the writers will take into account as well. Though Brady might get a job this year. We're going to talk about the coaching carousel in a little bit. But yeah, I would say Allen's 1 right now for me. He took over.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's go to Pittsburgh, where the Steelers beat the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Absolutely huge win. And Mike, this is everything I envisioned about 8 weeks ago when I told you after their hot start, this team's a problem. Maybe not at that time. I wasn't saying this team's a problem because they got this great roster. I still don't feel that way, but they're a problem because they're just better equipped to win these games against the teams on their schedule. A lot of bad teams on their schedule. The division's been a little subpar this year with the Bengals and Browns, so those are games that they should win. But a huge win over Baltimore, complete driver's seat feeling for Pittsburgh for the AFC North.
So especially on Hardline too, I was making fun of Pittsburgh, and I was not a fan of Pittsburgh. And this was when Fields was starting games. And ever since they made the switch to Wilson, was at the Jet game, that was Wilson's first start, that they really just seemed like a more complete team. And each week goes by, and now having that professional at quarterback, the guy that's not going to make the back-breaking mistake, the guy that could still throw the deep ball, sets up the run game nicely. Just again, a professional. They look like a real team, Kevin, with a great... How many times? It was remarkable sitting there, watching Lamar Jackson scramble in the pocket, and think Is there anybody open? How the hell is anybody not get? How is somebody not open? What a job by that Pittsburgh defense today. What a job.
Pittsburgh defense is great. The coach is top 3 in the NFL. I cannot argue otherwise. I was thinking about it today watching. You cannot give me 3 coaches that I definitively want over Mike Tomlin. It just is impossible for me to slice it that way. He's so great. The team is so ready to play every week. And you're right, with Russ, it's added an element of their offense where you have to respect the deep ball. You have to respect the passing game that you didn't have to respect with Fields. And I don't think that Fields' advantage in the run game over Russ is more significant than Russ's advantage in the pass game, and we've seen that. Now, with Pittsburgh, this is my maybe overreaction of the day. They are going to the Super Bowl.
Wow.
I think they are the best team in a weak AFC. Is that an overreaction today?
That's a major overreaction because, and I'll tell you why. One, obviously, the game we just talked about with possibly the MVP and Josh Allen. On the other side of that, you have the best coach in the league, maybe in the league's history. You have probably the best defensive coordinator in the game today. You have one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen and one of the best defenses in the entire league stacked up against that Pittsburgh defense. I think there's just so much going against you saying that. I think they're definitely the 4th team. Are they the 3rd team after today?
Well, who would be 3rd? Baltimore still?
Baltimore, because
I can't get there now after today.
You got to put the ball in the end zone. For me to say that you're even over Baltimore, you got to put the ball in the end zone a couple of times here.
The reason I'm so high on Pittsburgh now is I don't trust anyone to put the ball in the end zone against them. And I trust Pittsburgh to put 15-plus points up, and I trust their defense to hold the team right around the same. Will they, by the postseason, be scoring more touchdowns? That's what I'm banking on for this overreaction, this prediction here. I think that the offense clicks a lot more by the end of the season. Mike, this defense, though, Kansas City's not putting up 21 plus on this defense, maybe 24 they put up. That's the ceiling against this defense. I feel the same about Buffalo, and I feel, obviously, after today, the same about Baltimore. I don't like Houston against Pittsburgh. I think we're both in the same place on Houston, that they're just not.
You're too early.
Yeah, too early. The Chargers, no. Denver, we'll talk about. Bo Nix is going to win the MVP, but no. And Cincinnati, Miami, I don't trust these teams to beat Pittsburgh.
You just slipped that one right in there.
Yeah, Nix, that's not a slip in. That's you want to do your thing for Allen?
You're not wrong today after that one.
That's Nix rising up to the MVP. But yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like Pittsburgh is like the top dog of the AFC after today.
I can't get there. You got put the ball in the end zone. Also, again, let's do a little comparison here.
Yeah,
that Baltimore defense. I mean, I know Burrow is playing at an insane level. Okay, and Jamar Chase is great. What they did last Thursday to that defense, you would think maybe they put one in the end zone today, Pittsburgh.
But that also goes to my illogical formula that is time and time again disproven, but also proven often, that teams after a bad performance, units after a bad performance, have their good performances. So I expected Baltimore to have a better day on defense today because they had to. Okay. But Pittsburgh is in the same kind of boat that we think Cincinnati's in, where they just close out these games. And Mike, I'm at the point with Baltimore and with Buffalo where I'm saying, against a great defense, I really don't love them to score points in the postseason. And I need to see it to be proven wrong. Like, I'm telling you right now, maybe don't clip this because I might change my mind. But by January, if the standings remain the same, I'm not picking Buffalo or Baltimore to get to the Super Bowl. I might not even pick them to win a game.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not there.
This is the strongest I felt about Baltimore midseason than I have in a while. And
last year for me was.
This is before. Well, they lost a very similar game to Pittsburgh last year. Basically this exact game. And Kevin, I swear to God, I had a Super Bowl ticket in on my FanDuel Sportsbook account, and I cashed it out after that. I said, that's the most disgusting performance I've ever seen. The receivers were dropping balls left and right. I said, I'm done, I'm out, and I cashed it out. I almost, ate my words there, but, because they almost went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
They
you
were
must have been
seed.
sweating in the AFC
I was
Championship.
sweating a little bit. Oh, I rode Kansas City like you wouldn't believe to the Super Bowl. Every game.
You're a genius. All right, well, we're on to the hot takes about Pittsburgh. Let's move off the game, go to Green Bay at Chicago. Just an unfortunate one for Chicago here. You get all the way down, you kick to win, but if we want to talk about standings in the AFC and playoff dogs, Green Bay is like Houston in the NFC for me. I just think they're too early here. I don't think that they are this team that can go head-to-head with a couple of the teams in the NFC West. I don't think they can go head-to-head with the Lions. Not even close. We'll talk about the Lions in a moment. And Philly looks better. Green Bay escapes Chicago with a win, continue to dominate them record-wise, but I don't know. Are you as down on Green Bay as I am or no?
I don't trust them. I'll say that. I don't trust Love in big spots, turning the football over. I thought he played. His stat line, he only threw the ball 17 times, 13 completions for 200 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So, on the stat sheet looks pretty good with the pick. Jacobs played really well today. He drives them there. This just kind of felt like one of those trap games that you're supposed to lose when you're at the top of the division and you have a struggling team in yours, and they should have lost it. Yeah. But this is the Bears. They may be more cursed than your franchise at this point.
No, they're not.
I don't know. You get a generational quarterback and screw him up. I thought he looked better today, Caleb. He really put an emphasis. He ran the ball 9 times today for 70 yards. I was wondering how many he finished with, because watching the game, Mike, I'm like, how many times is he going to run?
Here's the difference. The Bears get the generational quarterback and screw him up. The Jets don't get the generational quarterback, and they screw up the other guy anyways. That's the difference. We don't even get the chance to screw up the generational quarterback.
Okay.
But either way.
Would you rather screw up the generational guy or screw up the guy that you know is second?
I'd rather Trevor Lawrence or Caleb Williams over Zach Wilson or Sam Darnold.
But if you know you're going to screw them up either way, then wouldn't you want to just screw up the second guy? It looks better.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
they both look bad. When one's the first pick and one's the second or third pick, it's pretty equally as bad. But yeah, moot point. I agree with you. The trap game part, the offensive coordinator change, you kind of had a little bit more movement in the offense. Not much though. 19 points. They were struggling to get into the end zone. But yeah, Chicago is in the group of teams that I like to say would love the season to just end tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And just let's wipe the slate clean. This year did not go how we planned. And let's get to the offseason. And
maybe fire the coach.
How long does this guy survive, right? Today, you don't fire him after today's game. Like the Jaguars are going to fire Doug Peterson in the morning, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But you don't fire Eberflus after today's game. But man, when do you?
Listen, I would probably wait till the end of the year too. But if they don't, because there are rumblings that they might not, that would just be the biggest embarrassment of all time right there.
Because now you can't get an offensive coordinator to go to that staff. Waldron would have been the best candidate you could have gotten to go to that staff. Last year was the year that you needed to get the coach in, Kingsbury, Johnson, whoever, and you didn't. And that's just terrible blunder on the Bears as an organization.
If you can have Caleb's 1 year where it's kind of like, all right, it was his rookie year, it was a mistake year, nothing went right, but he saw NFL football.
Yeah.
It's good to have it in the first year. But you can't ruin them anything past this season. But then on the flip side, we thought the same thing with Trevor Lawrence.
We did.
And yet he may be ruined forever.
I picked him to win the MVP last year and them to go to the Super Bowl. So you don't have to tell me what we thought about Trevor Lawrence. But Chicago's in a bad place. And they have been for a long time. Back in QB purgatory. Possibly they need to save Williams here, because he's on the same level that Justin Fields was. Their offense produces just as much, maybe a little less right now than it did with Fields last year, which is a huge problem. Stunner in San Fran today. Seattle ending up winning that game. This is a bad loss for San Francisco. You look at that division, 3, 5, and 5 teams. Rams, who won today. Stafford, your player of the game. Good job, Matt. The Niners 5-5, Seahawks 5-5, Cardinals 6-4. I'm starting to come around to the idea that the Cardinals are the best team in this division.
I'm not coming around to the idea they're the best team, but they definitely have a shot with the way the division's playing. I mean, again, you mentioned it's a really, really bad loss for San Francisco. And it's like, I know there's this thing about the Super Bowl loser and the hangover. And I said it coming into this season that San Francisco was not going to be the team that won the division. I picked the Rams to win it. But with how bad the division looks and sort of the way the seasons went, you had a lot of guys get hurt early for San Francisco. And as the years gone on, they've gotten healthier. It just sort of felt like it was going to all come together for San Francisco. And the shocking part to me, and the reason why this is so difficult to comprehend, is because it's not coming together. And they're in serious jeopardy of not winning this division and not making the playoffs.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And you look at the NFC, it's such a tight landscape. You have the Lions, the Vikings, and the Packers, all with better records than you. All three teams that, really should get into the playoffs. Three teams with 7 or more wins here. Packers 7-3, Vikings 8-2. Oh, well, no, that was before today. Was that before today?
What?
Are the Packers 7-3 or 8-3?
Yeah, they're 7-3.
They're 7-3. Okay, so Packers 7-3, Vikings 8-2, Lions 9-1, and the Packers had their bye week last week. So those are tough teams to catch up to. Washington's a team that could get caught up to at 7-4, but really your path to it is the Cardinals, because you can't knock the Falcons out because that's just an NFC South spot.
Right.
So it's going to come down to either can you finish with a better record than Washington, or can you top the Cardinals for the rest of the year? And I don't think San Fran's got it. There's just too much going on. Purdy did not look very good today. The passing game did not look very good today. Overall, Ayuk not being the guy he was last year and then missing the entire season after the injury is a terrible loss for them.
Let me guarantee this. I'll guarantee you something right now. And the odds are not in my favor. There's a 77% chance the Commanders make the playoffs right now. Take the 23% that they don't. The Commanders will not make the playoffs. I
don't mind the take. Only, I'll give you one reason I like it, one reason I don't. The one reason I like it is that when you look at the other 6 teams, the other 6 spots, as I said, you can't take the Falcons spot away from them. That's the NFC South Division winner.
Right.
And I don't think Minnesota, Green Bay, or who's the other wild card is? No, it's Minnesota and Green Bay. I don't think Minnesota or Green Bay finish with a worse record than Washington. So that leaves Washington as the only team that could potentially get bounced here. I don't think they jump the Eagles for the division. But the reason I don't like it is I don't totally trust any of these NFC West teams, Rams, Seattle, San Fran. You could throw Tampa in as well. I don't trust any of those teams to actually jump Washington in wins.
I trust the Rams. I think the Rams can do it.
Rest of Washington's schedule. I feel like the Rams have just been so inconsistent this year. A lot of that has to do with injuries.
They have been. And I thought today it kind of looked like they were going to go down that path of like, what the hell's going on? But they didn't. They righted the ship.
But look at the rest of Washington's schedule.
And I have the Rams schedule pulled up, and it's not easy.
Washington bye week this week.
Mm-hmm.
Then home against Dallas should be a win. Home against Tennessee should be a win. Okay. On the road at the Saints should be a win. They're at 10 now. Home against the Eagles, give them a loss. I'll give them home against the Falcons, a loss. They're at 10-6 there. And then they're at Dallas. They're probably going to win that. That's 11 wins.
They're at least at 10 wins. Maybe, you would need the Rams to really. Let's look at the Rams schedule now. We'll go through it. They're playing the Eagles in L.A. It's probably a loss Sunday night. They have at the Saints. That's going to be a win. They get the Bills at home. It's probably a loss. At San Fran, I'm probably going to say another loss.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that's not good. That's 8 losses.
No, it's Washington's in.
That's 8. I think they run the table 9-8.
Unless San Fran gets the job done.
Let's look at San Fran.
I don't think it's going to be LA taking Washington's spot.
All right, let's look at it here. Let's look at San Fran.
Yeah.
At Packers. At Bills.
Loss.
Home to Bears.
Win.
Home to Niners. Home to Rams.
I
say it's a win.
Throw them a win, yeah.
At Miami.
Loss.
Home to the Lions.
Loss.
I think they win the Miami game. At the Cardinals. They're gonna win that. They're gonna.
Let's just put it this way.
They're gonna 1-1.
Too many games. Too many close games there to feel like San Fran's gonna win 10.
All right. Should we look at Seattle's schedule?
No, they're not gonna do it.
All right. So the Commies are probably in.
They're probably in. That's a
bad playoff team.
Bad ignorant take by Michael Merlo.
It is.
Not the first, probably won't be the last even tonight.
Certainly won't be the last, but they're not a good playoff team. They are seriously frauds. Honestly, if they got upset by a couple of those bad teams, it wouldn't shock me.
No, I'm still not there with you with frauds. I think they're a pretty standard 7 seed.
I don't know. They don't have
Green
enough
Bay
receivers.
felt the same way last year.
They don't have enough receivers. Love played really well towards the end of the year last year, and Daniels is not on that level at the moment.
But
you were right.
He could get there.
You were right on Daniels because you didn't jump the gun with him. You didn't jump the gun with Daniels.
Yeah.
Listen, he's having a nice rookie season. He has 10 touchdown passes.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's been exciting. The hype has more so been about the Washington Commanders winning games, not about Daniels playing exceptional in them. That hasn't really been the case, but he's done enough for them to win. And as a Commanders fan, every right to be excited about that. And every 100%. Right to be excited about him as a quarterback. I know you don't disagree with that, but overall, am I sitting here saying, oh man, Washington just landed a $60 million a year franchise quarterback that's just going to transcend this franchise and launch them to contender status? I absolutely do not feel that way, which I said last week and which I think you agree with.
You were right. I mean, people were putting him on the CJ Stroud level of rookie quarterback, and that is certainly not even. It's disrespectful to CJ Stroud and what he did last season.
Does he even win Rookie of the Year, Daniels?
Probably not at this moment because there's another rookie that's playing unbelievably well right now.
And I don't even think he wins it.
Who do you think is going to win it?
Bowers.
You think Bowers is going to win it?
Bowers is probably going to set the rookie receptions and yards records for tight ends.
You know
the first team All-Pro tight end.
And I'm looking at Bo Nix's numbers right now. I mean, they're not great. I mean, they're not jump off the page. He's playing well. We know that. To eye test, you see he's playing well.
Yeah. And I don't think Neighbors or Harrison have had the statistical season to compete with Bowers at this moment.
Yeah, Bowers, how good of a season with no quarterback.
Yep. He's super. He's the best tight end in the league.
Right now he is.
Any team, Chiefs, Niners, they trade their tight end straight up for him.
You think?
Yeah.
Well, going forward, yeah.
They got the chance, yeah, but even now, you feel better about Bowers than you do Kelsey.
I guess you're right about that.
Of course I am, dude. This is 3 consecutive takes where I'm right.
Well, we talked about Kelsey towards the end of the year. Kittle's having a great year.
Kittle's the only guy that I'll actually sit here and say, okay, it's fair if you want him over Bowers.
Kittle's having a great year.
Imagine Bowers with Mahomes and Andy Reid. He's got Antonio Pierce and who's
Gardner Minshew today.
Gardner, who's the OC? Like Scott Turner or whatever.
Norv Turner, you mean?
No, but I think it's Scott Turner.
Norv Turner came in as an assistant, I think.
Yeah.
They've brought in so many former head coaches to aid Antonio Pierce.
I have an idea. Turner.
Save some money and fire Pierce.
I think Scott Turner's Norv Turner's son. That's why he came in as an assistant offensively.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bauer, whatever. Rookie of the Year, not Daniels' award that he's running away with, as people have suggested. Let's go quick. Let's just get through the rest of these games before we continue the banter. Jacksonville at Detroit. No need to spend too much time, but we're going to discuss. We'll save this for after the Atlanta-Denver game, actually. Let's go Atlanta-Denver first. Knicks was excellent today. This is exactly what you're imagining, and it's another game from Atlanta that further encourages me in my belief that they are not a playoff contender or even a playoff team that wins a game.
Yeah, I'm gonna take an L on the Atlanta take from the beginning of the season. They are not playing well. The defense, again, if you're going to I like Denver. I like Bo Nix. I obviously like Sean Payton. But if you're going there and giving up 38 points, I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
That can't happen.
It can't happen.
Because as much as I've loved the Knicks this year, the Broncos offense has not shown any semblance of 30-plus points a game. So for them to do this against Atlanta is bad on Atlanta.
Bo played really good today. I mean, that you need to seriously take a bow here.
Well, this is what happened with Bo Nix, and I haven't actually explained this full story yet about the draft process. So Bo Nix was my 4th-rated quarterback, 29th or 30th ranked player in the draft.
Okay.
But he's behind. So he's my 5th-rated quarterback, actually. Because he was behind Williams. He was behind May, Daniels, and McCarthy. McCarthy was 1 spot ahead of him in the top 50.
Okay.
But what I do every year is post-draft, first round only, post-draft position rankings. So how do they change based on their scenario after the draft? Nix was my number 2 quarterback after the draft in post-draft position rankings. Williams remained 1.
Right.
So Nix, the fit is just gold with Peyton because Peyton needed a guy that was, yes, sir, I'll run this offense, short dink and dunk. That's what Nix needed. Good enough amount of motion, good enough amount of running, good offensive line. That's perfect. And they're just going to keep adding to his repertoire, and he's going to keep getting better. And maybe an underrated thing at the draft, Mike, I don't know if you'll agree with this. I have no data to back this up. How about games played in college as an underrated draft accolade? Everyone says, oh, why would you want that guy? He's 24. That guy started 56 or 64, whatever it was, games at power universities.
You know, when the age thing came out, because obviously last draft cycle, my team was in need of a quarterback. They obviously didn't get one. That was one thing that never bothered me. Like, oh, this guy's 24 compared to the 22-year-old. It's like, yeah, it's 2 years. I get that. But these guys are still in the prime of their careers. And as long as you take care of yourself and your body, you're most likely going to play, if it's 12 years, the average of your prime to be a franchise quarterback, you're probably going to get to that 12th year. Because, again, we've seen quarterbacks at 35, 36 years old still dominate the league. So that never really bothered me. And you make a good point. He's such a smart guy, too. He had like a 4.0 at Oregon. I mean, his major,
and you can tell just hearing
crazy.
him speak and the way that people talk about him, that he's a leader and a smart player. He's a smart quarterback.
We met him, though, and we didn't like him. And we didn't like him.
Well, he was not kind to you.
He was not kind to me. He was very standoffish. He answered my question. We didn't like the answer.
Dude, I gotta be honest. I'll always stick up for you in that situation. Put myself in the other guy's shoes. If I was a world-class athlete and you asked me whatever question you asked, I don't even know what it was, I'd be like, who the hell does this guy think he is stepping into my zone asking me a question?
Well,
because I'd have no respect for you if I didn't know you.
Especially with me walking up to you. Yeah, 100%. Like me, just.
Yeah.
But I asked him, why did you have more success at Oregon than you did at Auburn? He
Very valid question.
He was a big prospect. He was a big recruit. They were hyped up to no end at Auburn, and he sucked there. He was not good.
He was not good.
And I asked him, why are you so great at Oregon, but not so great at, very, very polite question.
No, you did a good job with that, and he didn't like you. He didn't like you.
We got a nice picture, though.
That was probably a tough situation for him, too, and now we're so off the path. But that was probably a tough situation, too, because imagine being at the Heisman ceremony. You know you're not going to win. You just had this great season.
Mm-hmm.
You did good all things considered.
And did we know they weren't making the playoff?
We were pretty confident because they just lost to Washington the week before.
Okay.
So you had, all things considered, a hell of a 5-year career in college.
Mm-hmm.
You were, struggles at Auburn, whatever, blown out of proportion when you consider his whole body of work. But he is sitting at that table while Jaden Daniels has about 50 reporters around him. Marvin Harrison has 3 or 4. Penix has 3 or 4. Nix has nobody there.
Me.
And now look at him here. You're the only guy that steps up to him. Now look at him at this point. He is the best rookie quarterback in the National Football League right now. Am I being biased because of how I felt about him at the draft, or is that accurate through
I think
11 weeks this year? That just not who would you rather have, but who has played the best?
I think it's very close. I think last month and a half, it's absolutely Knicks. I think in totality, passer ratings. I don't know if what I was just looking at updated yet from today's scores. I don't think it did, but it was only in the low 80s. It's probably going to be in the 90s after today's start. Yeah, you wouldn't be completely off. You could certainly argue it.
So let's move quick to the Detroit-Jacksonville game here.
Yeah.
Detroit looks great. That's an easy one to come out and just say this. I don't know how much there is to say on Detroit, except for that they're so well-oiled right now, and they just come in, they blow out a team that they should beat, and that's that. Doug Peterson should absolutely get fired tomorrow. And, Mike, I don't know if this job is attractive at all to NFL coaching candidates.
I think there's a job that's less attractive, and I think it makes it more attractive. Not to rain on your parade here. I think there's one job. Like, no matter what, no matter who fires their coach, there is still one job that is the just absolute least attractive whatsoever. Okay. So
which one, Mike?
The Jets. The Jets are the least attractive job in years. So that helps the Jags here. I think you'll have an offensive coach that just says, I can fix Trevor Lawrence, right? You'll have that coach that says that and wants that opportunity. There's no coach coming into the Jet situation and saying, I can fix Aaron Rodgers.
No.
That's not happening.
Nor
wants Aaron Rodgers.
And the quarterback class in the draft is not great enough for you to sit here and say, all right, well, the Jets have the third pick. They have the fourth, fifth pick here. I can go get a guy.
No,
that you can't say that with this draft either. So, yeah, you're spot on with that. Jacksonville, the thing that might bring appeal to coaching candidates is two things. One, you have to imagine Trent Baalke gets fired here. He's gone through 2 coaching cycles now. Has to get fired. He's done a terrible job. So you'd get to be paired with a general manager, likely one that you have been previously associated with and have a good relationship with. And also the small market aspect, I think, really helps this. That's a huge issue with a team such as the Jets, where you are going into New York after this ultimate disaster attempt at a team. Morale is at an all-time low with the fan base, and the market is massive. You're on the national spotlight. Jacksonville, that's not the case.
We missed this on Football Night in America. Florio's reporting that Baalke could keep his job into next season as part of a package deal by bringing in Bill Belichick as the next head coach. What? So Baalke could keep his job.
Is that even exciting if you're a Jaguars fan?
No, probably not.
Oh man, that's a weird one. But that is one of the jobs I could see for Belichick. I've been saying Belichick. Arizona's out the window now. That was one that I had on the radar for him. But you have Cincinnati, depending on how their season finishes up. Could Zach Taylor get fired? That would be a great spot for Belichick. But Jacksonville has seemed like a pretty legitimate option for Belichick. But man, that's a tough place to go win right now.
Good thing I'm on Twitter. We are correct. Allen has jumped Jackson in the MVP odds on DraftKings. Allen is now plus 150. Lamar is plus 200. Goff is plus 600. And Mahomes plus 950. Very interesting. I won't read the odds on the rest, but I'll just give you the rest. 5th is Hurts. 6th is Kyler Murray. 7th is Joe Burrow. 8th, Brock Purdy. 9th, Jaden Daniels. And 10th, CJ Stroud.
No Knicks.
No Knicks on there, but Daniels there.
Okay, so Allen firmly in the driver's seat for the most valuable player. Let's quickly, while we're talking about coaches, what jobs are we expecting to open? And when you rate them on attractiveness, how would you do it? So we already have the Jets. We already have the Saints. We project, of course, the Jaguars will open. Where else do we think?
I think the Raiders are going to open.
Yep.
Actually, no, I don't. I think Pierce is going to be able to sell ownership on bringing in Shador, unless they want to flip Pierce for Dion.
You know what I think is going to happen with Shador?
What?
I think if he goes to one of these teams, Pat Shurmur is going to be the offensive coordinator because of the relationship with Colorado. And Dion wants him paired with an offensive coach that he likes. Obviously, if he hired him to coach his son, he likes him. And they've had some success. They might be in the college football playoff. They got to win out.
That is, by the way, the weirdest combination of all time.
It's a very odd one seeing Shurmur on that sideline.
It is fascinating,
especially as New York fans knowing who he is when he coached the Giants. He was the guy too. Can't believe they got rid of him.
Mm-hmm. Clearly.
All right. So Jacksonville,
Jets,
Saints, Browns.
No, Brown stays.
So are we like, Chicago? I'm going Chicago.
Chicago opens. Do the Giants open?
No. Dallas?
Dallas opens. 5.
So it's 5 openings. Attractiveness. Rate them.
The Bears are 1.
Okay.
The Bears are an easy 1. That's the job you want. I think 2 would probably be Dallas. You have your quarterback in place already. Yes, it's a tough market. It's a tough place to play out, coach, obviously. I think Dallas is 2 because you have the quarterback.
Yeah.
Number 3 would be Jacksonville. You have the quarterback. You think you have the quarterback. So that would be 3 for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Saints would be 4. I would not want to go coach the Saints, but the Saints would be 4.
Yeah.
And 5 would be the Jets for me.
All right. I would go Dallas, Chicago, Jacksonville, Jets, Saints. The problem with the Saints for me is that they are definitely going to keep Mickey Loomis here because he's like lifetime contract guy as a general manager. And he is reportedly not interested in rebuilding at all. So when you have all this money tied up and they kind of have to stick with what they have and try to land a quarterback.
Okay.
But I don't like that Saints job really at all because I have no chance of getting paired with a general manager I like. And unless I'm previously someone who has worked for Mickey Loomis and enjoys working with him.
All right. That's fair. It's not an attractive job.
Listen, we're sitting here deciding you get offered the Jets and Saints jobs. You might as well just go back to being a coordinator.
Yeah.
If you are one.
I would agree with
you. Get those 2 jobs. Those are 2 terrible jobs. Dallas, I think, is the most attractive, though. I like Prescott enough to say I'm stable here and I could begin to win here and actually create some sustainability.
I just think the front office is bad.
Front office is terrible.
Yeah, I think that's an issue.
Who are the guys that are going to get hired in this cycle? Let's say those are the 5 jobs that open up. Dallas, Chicago, Jacksonville, Jets, Saints. Who gets hired?
I think Johnson gets hired. I do. I think he goes.
Where do you think that?
I think he goes to Chicago. I think they allow him to go. I think him staying another year when he could have easily taken another job, I think he did himself a favor.
Okay.
So he goes to Chicago. I think he also loses the defensive coordinator. I think Glenn's going to get hired too, Aaron Glenn.
I think that's a Saints move.
That feels like it. That's great.
Glenn has been there and worked with
they took Campbell from there.
Yep. So I think that is a little reunion to
the
Sean Payton culture.
I like that.
All right. So we got Johnson to Chicago, Glenn to the Saints. Jaguars, Jets, Cowboys are open. Does Belichick come back?
I'm going to say Belichick's not coaching next year.
Okay, Vrabel.
I think Vrabel comes. Vrabel's got to ask himself a question. Are any of these jobs worth taking?
And you also have to ask, if I stay away from coaching too long, am I going to be phased out of the coaching carousel?
He wants power. I mentioned that last week. The reason why he left the Titans was because he didn't like the GM and he wanted to be the guy in power. Do the Jets give him that power? Do the Saints give him that power?
I think the Jets do because Woody Johnson's leaving. And I think he's going to say, I'm gone for the next 4 years. This guy can run the show.
You think that's the guy that goes there?
I think in this scenario that we're creating, that these are the 5 openings, he can do that. I don't think it would fly in Dallas.
It would not. He's not getting power in Dallas. Dallas is not going to hire the flashy guy unless they go with Belichick. They're not going to hire the flashy guy.
If Philadelphia goes on a run, could Jerry go for Kellen Moore?
You're going to bring Kellen Moore back.
I don't think they should. But
you could have had him. You could have just elevated him.
So I think Kellen Moore might be a surprise coaching interview in this cycle.
What they should have done was they should have hired Quinn. They should have just elevated Quinn.
Yeah.
That's what I would have done. I would have fired McCarthy and elevated Quinn.
They responded well to Quinn. They loved Quinn there.
Yeah.
These are Pro Football Focus's candidates. So you have Ben Johnson, of course. Jesse Minter, Chargers defensive coordinator. Not going to say he gets a job here.
Not yet.
Todd Monken, you got to be desperate for a candidate to get Todd Monken.
Mm-hmm.
Kingsbury, if it's not Chicago, it's nowhere.
Yes, I agree.
Belichick, we're saying here, we think is not going to go.
Unless he goes to Jacksonville.
Vance Joseph they have, I'm going to say no. Joe Brady.
I think Brady's in such a good situation where I think he could sit a year.
Yeah.
And say, hey, I'm going to be the offensive coordinator for. Remember, Dable was going to get a job. Dable was going to take a job right after Allen's first good season. He waited one more year. He didn't get the greatest job in the world, but he ended up being one of the hotter candidates.
Yeah.
I think waiting another year for the coordinator would be a good thing.
I think Brian Flores has a real shot at getting a job here. Do I think he does? That's another.
Is that a spot for Dallas?
It could be. Spot for Dallas. The only issue I'd have is that he has a lawsuit against the NFL, and I don't know how tight Jerry is with the commissioner, if that's something that would get squashed.
I would have loved Gruden to the Jets, but obviously he had the job with Barstool, and
yeah,
I don't know. Also, again, another lawsuit with the NFL, so I don't know how that would fly.
How about a year early, maybe Jeff Hafley, Packers defensive coordinator, has had coaching experience in college. Doing a great job. One of those younger minds, has really reinvented the Packers defense, developed players nicely.
Certainly get interviewed. I don't know if he gets a job yet.
You'd bring a guy.
Again, he has to ask himself, I'm on a fast track. I was a coach of a college team. Now, if Dallas is interviewing you, or if the Bears are interviewing you, then yeah, okay, you consider it, but you're gonna go to the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
You take that job.
You're not going to go to the Jets.
You're not going to go to the Jets. You're going to take that job.
The Jets are in an interesting spot with this scenario. With this narrative is no first-time head coach should want the Jets job. There should be no first-time head coach who says, I have no experience as a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to jump in and do it with the Jets. Nobody should be saying that. And the Jets on the same end should be saying, we don't want a guy who's a first-time head coach. This is too much of a mess. We've been through too many coordinators here. That's why I think I could see them giving Mike Vrabel some serious power and just saying, hey, do your thing, do your rebuild, bring in your general manager who you can control, and let's see how it goes. Because we've exhausted everything else with coordinators, with Gase as a former offensive head coach. We've brought in veteran quarterbacks to try and get the offense going. Let's just go with a guy who's been a 1 seed, developed an offense on different occasions, developed Ryan Tannehill with his offensive coaching staff, and see if they can pull something. That's the thing about Vrabel. Like, nobody highlights. He had a lot of offensive coaches go get good jobs.
Yep. No, he did. Yeah, that would also be dream scenario, I think, for the Jets, though.
Yeah, considering when you factor dreams
situation,
when you factor dreams into also reality, like let's not go pipe dream Ben Johnson here. I don't think that's realistic. But I think Vrabel is realistic, and I think we have to be honest about how attractive Vrabel is in the eyes of a lot of owners. He fizzled out big time at the end in Tennessee. He wants big control for a guy who's never made a Super Bowl, and he's a defensive mind. That does not attract.
You're getting a leader. You're getting a leader and a culture builder which
Yes.
he did his job. He did what he was supposed to do in Tennessee, and then it fizzled out. And got a lot of veterans. The message probably wore thin. I don't necessarily believe this could be like a Buck Showalter situation where he builds the foundation, but maybe he's not the guy that wins the championship for you.
Well, no one won a championship for the Mets.
I was talking about Buck Showalter with the Yankees.
Oh, okay. I thought
not with the Mets.
I was gonna say we're jumping the gun, Mike.
Well, they will when Juan Soto is on this team next year, which you have to be getting scared about, by the way, that he's going to be.
I'm not scared yet, only because I'm like, when is he even going to sign? I'm just not getting. I'm not getting worked up about free agency yet. I think he's going to sign at the winter meetings.
2 weeks,
but
he's signing within the next 2 weeks.
We definitely have to do a Burrows in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah,
maybe before anyone even signs, and just.
I would love to do one this week if you want to do
chat. Yeah, I'm thinking this Friday or early the following week.
Yeah,
we got to do one because it's starting to heat up a little bit. I'm not worried. I'm not more worried than I always was, because I've always said Mets are going to offer more. Yankees got to come close, and then he's got to say, I love playing there.
There's this video of from his podcast, Mike Fritz's podcast, that he doesn't even know the exact numbers. He's like throwing out this random rumor that he heard that the Mets offered like $700 million for 12 years, which is just not true at all. They might have not even offered. Nobody knows if they did.
Yeah, that's definitely not true. I don't believe any of the rumors I see. I think Boris is so involved with the writers that you can't trust any of these rumors. You're going to tell me that Soto walked out of both meetings with the Blue Jays and Red Sox, and let's throw the Mets in too, but he walked out of all three and said, oh, that was great. This was awesome. Yeah. And I can see myself playing it. Come on.
The only way he says that is if Steve Cohen goes, here's 15 years for $700 million. Then it was a great meeting.
That was a great meeting. And I believe if there was one meeting that was going to intrigue him, it was definitely the Mets. The Mets were definitely going to intrigue him with their meeting. But I still think the Yankees have a ledge here because they spoke to him multiple times throughout the season about this. And they knew before negotiating with him in the offseason what it would take, or ballpark what it would take. And now they're meeting with him tomorrow, and I think that's more so, hey, what did everyone else offer? And now I don't think anybody
offered.
I think there have been offers since probably within an hour or two after the World Series ended.
You think so?
Yeah, I think that teams have been bulking up for this for a year or two now, and they were ready to throw initial offers in the second the season ended to Boris.
I'd love to know how this works. Do you send it through text message? Do you have to send it on a certain
I think it's more of a phone call now? I think it's more of a phone call.
But how do you know it's a serious offer?
I think you just trust it, and then you get the contract in front of you, right?
Fascinating world. He's a Met, but either way, it's fascinating world.
Well, I think in these meetings too, if they're going to offer him, they actually hand him the contract.
I don't think anybody handed him a contract.
No, but this is what I think happened.
I think we would know.
I think the Mets say, David Stern sits there, or Steve Cohen sits there, and he's like, we're going to offer you 10 years, 700, whatever it is. Fake numbers right now.
Yeah.
Here's the paper. Sign it if you want. If you want something new, we could figure something new out. But you give him the paper if he wants to sign it or not.
You think
and he brings it home with you.
You think Stearns really wants him?
Yeah. This is a player that was that would be completely unattainable to him in Milwaukee, where he was a good executive.
But he doesn't do these. You know what I mean? He doesn't do the long-term contract thing.
No, he doesn't, but this is different. This guy's different.
Okay. All
right, let's wrap it here as we're talking baseball. We'll be Burrows soon, though. If not this Friday, then maybe the following Tuesday or Friday. Definitely within the next 2 weeks. We'll announce it on Instagram. Thanks for listening. Good NFL Sunday. Quick prediction for Sunday Night Football, which has already started as we run late.
I don't know the score. I'll say the Bengals get a win here. Desperation.
I think the Chargers pull out a good, tight win here. 0-0 right now, 10 minutes in.
Rooting for the Chargers, though. First. Think the Bengals win.
I think the Chargers end up pulling one out. Good start so far for Harbaugh. and Co. All right, we'll wrap up there. We'll see you next Sunday. Thanks for listening. Make sure to tune into Coast to Coast on Thursdays, the Hardline on Tuesday mornings, Hardline also Thursday gambling show. Check it all out. Check us out on Instagram, TikTok, you know the handles, and we will see you next weekend.